guys.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Please, can you give me your names?
Bonke, Sumbulu.
Azania.
How? What's your surname, Azania?
Azania Majikija.
Hey, how old are you?
4.
Okay. Do you love your mommy?
Yes.
Very much.
Yes.
Please tell her that you love her.
Mommy, love you.
I love you too, Cookie.
Do you know what light skin privilege is?
Yes, I'd like to think that I do.
Do you suffer from light skin privilege?
I wouldn't use the word suffer, but I've been fortunate enough to use my looks where I can
What does that mean?
and my skin tone.
What does that mean?
It means getting a leg up where I can and using my skin tone, using my looks, using the way that I speak to get ahead in my career, with friends, and I'm ashamed to admit that, but when it came to friends, yeah, I would use it.
Use your light skin.
I did, yes. Back in school, I was in a very small school. There were very few of us. I'd like to believe I was the lightest girl in school. And because of that, I befriended all of the white kids. I was a teacher's pet. I got to be invited to some of the events that my other darker friends weren't. I was the favorite. I wasn't good at sports, but I was asked to play sports, and I'd like to think it's because I looked very much like a colored girl, and I could speak the language. I could speak Afrikaans quite well, and yeah, I used all of that. I ended up becoming deputy head girl in high school, and I think head girl in primary. I definitely used all of it to get ahead. They couldn't really pronounce my name, but it didn't really bother me because it got me where I needed to be at the time.
Can you put her on one lap?
One lap. Any side.
Any side.
I'm looking at you, I'm looking at the camera.
At the camera, please. Zaza,
Yes.
are you light? Or are you dark? You don't know?
Don't know.
Do you know what a dark-skinned child is? No.
No.
Okay. Do you discriminate against darker-skinned people?
No. And I can say that with absolute certainty. My mother was very, very dark. My eldest sister was also dark. So I never really had qualms or issues with dark-skinned people. Half of my family is dark. So that's a no.
Zaza, please come sit with me. Thank you. What is your understanding of pretty girl privilege? And do you think there are any shortfalls or any disadvantages to it?
Pretty girl privilege is one, knowing that you look good, and two, using those looks to get ahead, and using those looks to your advantage wherever possible.
Any disadvantages?
Yes. You're frowned upon by other people who tell you that, oh, you're only here because of your looks, you only got a particular position because of how you look or how you speak or how you sound. Some people may even think that you're not qualified to do a particular thing, position, job, because you only got there because of your looks. That can be a great disadvantage. So that means you'd have to prove yourself, go the extra mile to prove that I'm not just here because of my looks or how I sound. I actually deserve to be here.
Do you think there are some pretty people that end up working twice as hard as dark-skinned people to prove a point?
Ooh. Yes. Yes. An example that comes to mind is in the medical space. Yes, you can look good and people can appreciate your looks, but like I said, people also look at you with a skew eye. Is she qualified to be here, and can she really do what she's meant to do? So you go the extra mile. You have to see more patients than the next person. You have to prove yourself. You have to prove your surgical skills. You really need to outwork everyone else because you need to prove it. And I think that's the one space where looks are really just not enough. You have to play your part.
It's a question I wanted to ask. It's gone now. Shit. Oh, I remember. You said you don't discriminate based on skin tone.
Yes.
Does this mean you have no preference for the skin tone of your children?
Yes. I think secretly I wanted a light-skinned baby, and now that I've gotten one, it's nice, but I don't think it really means anything. I don't really have a preference for my other children. I don't think so. I've experienced what having a light-skinned child means, to me at least. So it really wouldn't make a difference with my following children or the rest of my children.
Are light-skinned children cuter than dark-skinned children?
Oof. Sometimes. But you know what, can I say this? You get a lot of people saying, oh, you're not really pretty. It's just, you're light. And the same goes for my child. People have said, she's not really that pretty. It's just that she's been fortunate enough that she's light-skinned. And I guess fortunate in that sense means she can get ahead because she's light. She doesn't have to do much to look good.
Do you sometimes find that you don't take Africans seriously if they're not dark-skinned? That if people are like, oh, you're African, but you're light, that you're not a real African?
It's difficult to answer that question because the same has been said of myself. You're not really black, you're not black enough. Fortunately for me, my hair always comes to my rescue, but you know, I think so. You see a white person in Zimbabwe and you start to question. You see a really, really light-skinned guy who says they're coming from Nigeria and Ghana, and you can't help but really question this person. And I guess we've all been biased. We've all been brought up to believe that black is African, and that's why people look at not really dark-skinned people as not so much African, I think.
Do you think light-skinned guys are as strong and powerful as dark-skinned guys?
I do. My father was light-skinned. Again, I'm going to make reference of my own family. So I'd like to think of my father as a very strong African man. So yes, I've got family, male cousins, uncles, who are light-skinned, and I'd like to consider them very strong African men. So that's a yes.
The other questions I want to ask are like conversation type. Do you think the reason we have a skin complexion dynamic has to do with colonialism or something else?
I think currently the media has a very big role to play in that. We're made to believe that light is better. We're made to believe that having longer hair, artificial nails, artificial eyelashes is better. I think back in the day there wasn't a lot of that, but now it's being so magnified that we can't help but think that bleaching your skin is the next best thing if you're not light enough. Yes, I do think there's a lot of influencing factors, but for me, media, particularly social media, has had such a big role to play in that. To hell with the side effects, to hell with the disadvantages. If you're not light enough, you'd better do something about it. If your hair is not long and curly and wavy, you'd better do something about that. And if the media were to change the lens on this, change the outlook on this, I think people would also follow suit.
There are stories that Ushaka Zulu
Yes.
was light-skinned. If it came out to be a fact, would it change the way you view him as a story, as a character, as a leader of the Zulu nation?
I'm inclined to say yes. When you think of Ushaka Zulu, you think of this tall, very, very dark-skinned Zulu man who stands tall and proud amongst other men. It's not to say that being light-skinned would make him any less of a man, but it would certainly change the narrative, I'd like to think. Again, media, we all grew up watching the show Ushaka Zulu, and again it was this tall, dark-skinned man. That's what we know, that we were made to believe. Anything out of that would definitely be a strange alternative, and it would take time, I think, for us to digest and maybe even believe. So I think rumor is a good word to use. It would need to be proven.
Would you believe that the Egyptians that built the pyramids were white people? And if not, why not? Again,
Because we weren't there personally, what we know is what we've been told, what's been written in the books. Anything other than that seems rather far-fetched. If not them, then who? And why only now would the story change? Why weren't we told different before? And what other factors are at play here? Is there more happening? It's very difficult to think otherwise for me personally.
if you had to tick a box, do you think Jesus Christ was a white man, a dark-skinned black man, or a light-skinned black man?
Light-skinned with very long hair and nice skin and beautiful blue eyes, walks on water and performs miracles. Again, that's what I've been told. That's what you see when you walk into a church, this guy with beautiful hands and this robe with long wavy hair, with beautiful light skin. That's the box I'll tick.
Purely based on what you've been taught and not your own opinion?
Purely based on what I've been taught. Outside of that, I'd have to use my own imagination, and in my imagination, Jesus isn't a man, for starters. He doesn't have long hair. That's not my picture of Jesus.
What is your picture of Jesus, if you don't mind?
Jesus is the guy next door. He can be black, he can be white, he can be colored, he can be Indian. He's one of us. He walks amongst us. He sounds just like us. He's no different to us. In other words, there is the Jesus that I see is the Jesus that I believe to be in my own mind. He's one of us. He lives with us. He's the regular guy next door. He doesn't have long hair. No. He might even, dress like us.
Do you feel like part of the light-skinned community? And if so, do you ever defend light-skinned people on various platforms?
All the time. I have to. I'm light-skinned. It's almost like defending myself. I have to defend my intelligence. I have to defend my career. I have to defend my own family. I have to defend my child. I have to.
Doesn't that make you biased towards light-skinned people?
What would be the alternative? Why would I speak ill of myself?
Not yourself, of light-skinned people.
Sure, there's a bias. But I'd stand and defend that bias too, if needs be.
I think we'll cut there. The next question is so inappropriate.
Go ahead.
No? No. Is there anything you want to say? Shout out to our Nose Portfolio Extension 7, 8.
Oh, yes, definitely. Shout out to King Pen. Penuel, the Black Pen.
I was saying Radio Kasi. Oh.
No. Oh, yes. Shout out to NY3A Gugule, to...
You're from
Oi, oi.
You're from Portfolio. Stop it.
No.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.